Okay, not just me. Where's Isha? Hello, Isha. Seems she has some camera issue.
I'm fixing my camera, so just start talking and I'll be there in just a minute, okay?
Everyone. Okay, yes, it's me. I'm taking over. Isha is camera. Okay, just how's everyone going today? Monday, huh? Let me just finish a long day. Uh, so, originally, Isha was uh, we last time, but since she is visiting us today, I want to say something. The electric cars will never pull out because I'm not $6 I mean, why it was that? Why it not that? Okay. So, as we all know, after World War II, America becomes the strongest country on the planet. I mean, actually, it's like one place. It's according to GDP. So they built the whole economic system based on American hegemony. Because uh, they would the conflict is American dollar will be better by gold, and that every country will be trading based on American dollar.
Okay, sorry everyone, but I'm having some camera trouble.
Okay, you don't understand anything. It's a little bit basic. Uh,
Yeah, you need to improve your sound.
how about now? Can you guys
Okay,
hear
I'll
me?
be. How about this? I'll just give.
Can you guys hear me now? Is it clear? Okay, hold on.
Need more anarchists dunked on, Nazis ripped apart, and the libs' real intentions to be trotted out? Hit the like and subscribe buttons below, and then go over to historically.substack.com and check out our newsletter and podcasts.
I want to explain why the money collapse in the future, in the coming future very soon. Because in this theory, there's a paradox in the system, which means it might fail. Because to to keep American dollar hegemony, there's only one situation. America's production might be higher, way higher than other economies. But to make American dollar hegemony work, which means you have to make every other country trade with American dollar. In this situation, they might have dollar in their hand first. Otherwise, how can they trade with dollars, right? So you have to export American dollar to all those countries around the world. To to do this, you have to import a lot, right? So if you import a lot, it will slow down your production. It will weaken your production. All your factory will move it out. They will be moved out because you don't need those factories anymore. You just keep importing. But remember what I said before? To keep the American dollar hegemony works, the production of America will be higher than others, right? Then you just import a lot. With this kind of action, America's production will go lower, 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 lower. So it's a paradox. You cannot eat the cake and keep the cake at the same time. It doesn't work that way. So also after the globalization, all those factories moved to those country the wage of which are lower. For example, China or before let's say Japan. At the first place, it was Europe after World War II. So okay, exporting dollars. So American dollars was produced by American government at the first place. Do you understand this part? So if you want other countries have American dollars in their hand, so you have to make them have those dollars. So how can you give them those dollars? You don't give those dollars for free. You have to export those dollars. When you export those dollars, you import the stuff those countries make. Understand this part? Maxwell? Because for example, China, let me put this example. China, before the opening reform, we don't have dollars in our hand. So if you want us to have dollars, we have to export our stuff to America. America will import our stuff. Let me ask a question. Are there physical one actually? Are there physical one actually $1 actually dollar bill for every dollar? No. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, American dollar hegemony means every country do the international trading with dollars. For example, we just when we want to import the oil from China, when China want to import the oils, we pay with dollars. So before we do that, we have to have dollars in our hand first. Otherwise, how can we pay with dollars, right? It doesn't make sense. So we have to export our stuff, for example, service or products to America to get American dollar. But when you stand at an American place, you will find America import the stuff and the service from China and export the dollars. It's called exchange. Yeah. And wherever has the American dollar in their hand, then they can do trade with American dollar, right? But if you want to do this, you have to keep importing from other countries because you want the economy to grow, not to reduce, not to be weakened. If no one's like doing international trading, Wall Street would have no interest, they have no income, so they have to like keep importing, keep printing more and more dollars. And actually, another thing, American government or American elites or any West elites will never tell you is all those American debt is actually the money they printed. American government not that's why they cannot have victory in America itself. That's why Americans like do the in this they want
Hi,
to reduce the
I'm back, and I guess I got my
yeah we have still now.
video kind of working, which I'm fixing. A long story.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, where's you now? Where are you?
I was just here a second ago. What am I? Oh, okay. Wait a minute. My old camera's working. Give me 1 second. I will go back to the
Not you. Sometimes you don't just change the local currency. You just import stuff and service. For example, you import those like natural resource, or you import those like service. You don't have to do that with currency. You can, for example, American like import tons of products from China. They don't like exchange the currency. They just import. They buy stuff from China. Also, think about it. When America keep buying stuff from other country, why do they need to keep all those factories? Given the salary in America is higher than other countries, the company cannot make profit. The capital is all about profit driven. Remember, if you cannot make profit in this country, you move out.
Okay. Sorry about the camera troubles. Can everyone hear and see me?
Yeah, I can see you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can see you now. Clear, quite clear.
Okay, sorry about the camera troubles. It's I don't know what to say. But what happened is that I have a Sony cam, but I broke. You see this link? I broke the link, so I couldn't hook it up. So I had to MacGyver my phone as a camera. But I couldn't MacGyver it because it was still recognizing this cam as though it were plugged in and blah blah blah. So continue.
Okay, now that you're back, you can just go. You can continue your work. I think
You should continue. Finish talking while I get something to drink. So.
Okay. Because of America always want to keep the American hegemony going, American dollar hegemony going. Because American built their economy based on American dollar hegemony. If American dollar hegemony collapses, the whole system collapses. And Maxwell, you don't have to say sorry, because I don't think your college, even in Western college, they would never teach you this. It's the dirty trick they played to rip off the whole country, not the whole country, to rip off the whole world. How would they just tell you the truth that you guys are actually benefiting from the stuff we can from the whole world?
Absolutely. The one example I can give you is the amount of labor it takes to mine cobalt from raw cobalt versus the price of industrialized cobalt. So it's like all sucking out into the West all the money.
Yeah. Okay. I'm talking about why American dollar hegemony middle class. Because there's a paradox inside. Because to make American dollar, to keep American dollar hegemony, you have to make sure one thing: America's production should be higher than other countries. Otherwise,
In value-added goods.
I mean the production.
Yeah, in production in value-added goods, so that you can always have a trade balance that's higher.
They mostly they wanted the real production, not the current one. Because the current situation is already different. Chinese, when let's talk about the real production, the Chinese production is already higher than American.
Yeah.
In PPP, not the GDP. We surpassed America at 2016, I remember, 16 or 14, I forgot. That's several years ago. But if you want to keep that working, you should make sure America's production is higher than other countries. But if you want to make American dollar hegemony work, which means you want other countries trade in American dollar, you have to make sure they have American dollar in their hand. Otherwise, how can they trade with American dollar, right?
Yeah.
So to do this, you have to export American dollar to those countries, which means you have to import a lot of stuff from those countries.
Yeah.
Before America produces everything by themselves, in this situation, you cannot, because you already import a lot, remember? So that's why the American production keeps getting down and down, getting lower, keep getting lower. After America getting American hegemony. I mean, I'm talking the real production. If you just look at how much percent of the American production occupied after World War II, when they got the American dollar hegemony.
Well, that's how they. But the thing about it is that then they thought that the hegemony would still last even if they were to outsource things, factories and things like that, and they kind of got too smart.
Yeah, one of the things they want to keep that. It's not like they think they can keep it, but they have to. Because after those days, they already build all the American economy based on American dollar hegemony. Which means if the American dollar hegemony is gone, the whole system collapses.
Yep. I mean, yesterday, they were talking about shortage of goods. I went to get some hairpins at CVS Pharmacy in New York City, and they didn't have hairpins. It's not a big deal, but it shows you that something's going on with the supply chain in New York City. Anyways, last week, 2 weeks ago, I slept in because I had insomnia, I had sleep troubles. Well, we were reading on Protracted War.
Yeah.
Do you remember where we left off?
I almost forgot. Can you remember? Can you recall?
I can't recall. I have ADHD.
I will find it, I guess. It's volume 2, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And Untitled War. It should be 30 or something, I remember. Mm-hmm. Uh-oh.
Okay. I don't know which which section we left off on. I know I have it with me.
I remember it's like a 30 or something.
Oh, okay, section 30. Okay, let me download it, and I will begin reading.
Let's now examine the problem of Untitled War. Yeah, this part. We reject the theory of a quick victory, which is just ID talk and effort to get this on the chip. That is where we end.
What page is that again?
134.
Okay. What am I doing? Give me a second. It's Monday morning. I haven't had my ADHD medicine and I haven't had my coffee yet.
Because I just finished a long day, okay?
Are you in London?
No, I'm saying I just finished a long day. Today is just a Monday for me, and it's like 10:24 p.m.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let me just give me one more. The problem was that it's in the volume is in that phone that I'm using as my camera. So I'm trying to download it again on my iPad so that I can. Long story.
Okay.
Okay. Meanwhile, I will tell. Okay, I found it, but now it's not. Found it, but it's not like opening it as. How do I? Options. Send as PDF. Where am I sending it to? Save to files. On my iPad.
Okay.
Save. Okay, I got it now. Give me a second. Now, how do I open up files on my iPad? Ay, caramba, Dios mío.
Okay, now we have 9 people here.
Excellent. You guys can learn about my iPad troubles. Okay, found on on this iPad, and it's still found it. Preparing file. Found it. Okay, now we can go to page. What page 147, right?
137. 34.
134. Okay. What section is it?
30, I remember. So it starts 30.
30, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I see 21.
Actually, it's in my place.
Okay, so yeah, I remember. Okay, the theory of national. We finished the theory of national subjugation. Why a protracted war? Okay, This is the exciting stuff. So I'll begin as normal. I'll just begin reading, and you just interrupt me whenever you think that there needs to be something that needs to be explained.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Why a protracted war? 30. Let us examine the problem of a protracted war. A correct answer to this question, why a protracted war, can be arrived at only on a basis of all fundamental contrasts between China and Japan, for instance. If we say merely that the enemy is a strong imperialist power and we are a weak semi-colonial and semi-feudal country, we are in danger of falling into the theory of national subjugation. For neither in theory nor in practice can a struggle become protracted by simply pitting the weak against the strong. Nor can it be protracted by simply pitting the big against the small. The progressive against the reactionary, or abundant support against meager support. The annexation of a small country by a big one or of a big country by a small one is a common occurrence. It often happens that in a country, and the same holds for everything that is progressive but not strong. Abundant or meager support is an important but subsidiary factor, and both degrees of its effects depend upon the fundamental factors against both sides. Therefore, when we say that the war against resistance, we say that the war of resistance against Japan is a protracted war, our conclusion is derived from the interrelations of all factions at work on both sides. The enemy is strong and we are weak, and the danger of subjugation is there. But in other respects, the enemy has shortcomings, and we have advantages, and the enemy's advantages can be reduced and his shortcomings aggravated by our efforts. On the other hand, our advantages can be enhanced, but our shortcomings remedied by our efforts. Hence, we can win final victory and avert subjugation, while the enemy will ultimately be defeated and will be unable to avert the collapse of his whole imperialistic system.
Yeah, this topic is quite similar to our current situation. I know I'm like a broken recorder. I keep it again and again, but I still want to keep it because it's like the beginning of our show this time. Okay, talking about the current situation, America's influence is still strong. At least compared with us, they are very strong. They almost have like the strongest economy, the strongest like military force, all those kind of stuff. But you have to understand about one thing. All those things, all those like strong part, is based on what?
Military power.
Military power, economic power. Those things are holding each other, backing each other up. But once one of them is gone, everything is gone. Like think about it, their military is strong, yeah, but without money, who would fight for them?
That's the thing, is the reason why their military needs to be in so many places while China's does not, is because people are not willing to fight for corporate profits. Like they tried that in Korea, and the US had to invade South Korea to protect capitalism. So China, on the other hand, are building bridges and railways, and in fact, the Kenyan military is willing to protect it because it's Kenya. They're willing to die for it. You know what I mean? And they have for years.
It's like when we go to Africa to build those roads and bridges, the locals benefit from it. What is it for them to attack us? You attack us, you drive us away. No will build any hospitals, any schools, any roads, any bridges for you anymore. What's needed for you?
Yeah, all of it is like concern trolling by the West. For example, there was okay. So when you don't have roads, it's like hard to go to school, and you don't. And for a lot of, it's not. I mean, it's sad, but this is just the way the world works. Is that unfortunately, you're not going to want to send your girls at 6 a.m. in the dark, in like a middle of nowhere to go to school because it's frightening. But then I watched this documentary where they built this overpass over this like non-road area in the middle, and suddenly girls' attendance improved by 60% because people were like, okay, oh, okay, I just have to walk my girl over the bridge and it takes like a 10-minute walk. And they did it instead of like before, wherever they had to do. And so just building the roads and bridges, it's a walking bridge. They built a walking bridge and it increased school attendance by 60%. Like girls were not missing anymore. And yeah. And I guess people in America don't understand how these infrastructures are essential in the third world.
Also, I want to say something else. Because in China, in our value, we always believe in one thing: education changes people's fate. That's how important it is.
Yeah.
For some people from nowhere who's like super duper poor, if they want to change their fate, the only way for them is to study hard.
There's an Indian proverb kind of like that, like the road to heaven goes through a school, is not through a temple but a school or something like that.
It's like, I mean, you are from India. I don't want to like badmouth.
You can badmouth India. I badmouth India. I'm talking about ancient India when things were different, and yeah,
I
there
mean,
was a lot.
the current India is like a shithole according to Donald Trump. Okay, the
Yeah,
education
no, I
system
agree.
is a joke. I mean,
I'm just trying to say that we both have one thing is that we both have ancient cultures, and there's, I mean, we have a lot of like similar things with the Buddhism part and the philosophy. So I was just explaining how there was a similar Indian philosophy like that too, that is correct because it's also a Chinese philosophy. That's all.
yeah, the thing, I mean, India could be great, but because of this
Caste system.
the caste system, or not only the caste system, also the democratic system. If you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know. We needed Mao. We needed somebody like Bhagat Singh was somebody supposed to be like Mao, and they killed him. And yeah, we need a militant Maoist insurgency. Not Maoist. I mean, militant. Yeah.
You mean Mao Zedong's Mao Zedong's not the Mao Zedong.
Yeah. Not the Gonzalo people. I'm talking about the Mao Zedong thought. The Communist Party is making lots of inroads in India. They organized a 500 million people thing. So lots of good is happening in India. But when you see, for me, it's a perfect laboratory when you compare India and China because they both got its independence around the same time.
Yeah.
Look at China, look at India. Capitalism and communism, there's like no difference.
Oh, come on, there's a talking about this. There's a big joke, okay?
No, I meant no comparison, not no difference. I meant there's no like China is building these futuristic cities and going trains to the mountains, and India, yeah. Do you know Yanmi Park?
I mean, just in case you guys don't know, okay? According to India Constitution, they call themselves a socialist country. I'm not joking.
In the Constitution, yes, we're supposed to be socialist. Yes.
Yeah, according to India Constitution.
Yes.
They call themselves a socialist
We were
country.
supposed to be in 1947, and then lots of things happened, and just we didn't become socialist.
Yeah, I'm not joking. You can take my own.
No, it is. In India, it says India is a secular, constitutional socialist republic. The first sentence of the Indian Constitution is that.
Last week happened with China and India.
Probably nothing important.
Nothing serious. I just
Yeah.
I mean, India. I mean, just like
Okay,
I just hit it with India. Come on, you guys have so much potential. You just
I understand. I was just mentioning, you said an ancient Chinese proverb. I was just responding with, hey, in India, we have an ancient proverb like this too. It's
yeah,
not, it wasn't meant to be anything more than that. And I can stop doing it too.
yeah, cause I believe like human power is the most precise resource on the planet. It's like the most valuable resource on the planet. Human power, not
Yeah.
only like the level power, the brain power as well. And you guys just like how do you guys use your brain power? Okay, you're
We don't.
the most educated people want to move to America, want to move to the West to become what? I
Yeah,
mean,
no, I mean, I understand. I agree with every single thing you say about India, but let's stay on the subject here, okay? Since
okay.
the enemy has only, and I will stop using Indian proverbs from now on, I'll do like maybe Vietnamese proverbs.
Okay.
That one, wait, that might trigger you. Okay, let's see. Enver Hoxha sayings, okay, from now on. Okay.
Yeah.
Since the enemy has advantages only in one respect, but shortcomings in all others, and we have shortcomings in only one respect, but advantages in all others, why has this produced not a balance, but on the contrary, a superior position for him and an inferior position for us at the present time? Quite clearly, we cannot consider the question in such a formal way. The fact is that the disparity between the enemy's strength and our own is now so great that the enemy's shortcomings have not developed, and for the time being cannot develop to a degree sufficient to offset his strength, while our advantages have not developed and for the time being cannot develop to a degree sufficient to compensate for our weakness, and therefore there can as yet be no balance, only imbalance.
Yeah, it's like the current situation as well, right? Yeah, we have to give this like the working class in the West, especially in America. We have all those like advantage, but just a one shot coming. Like we are not strong enough, and we are not also talking about ourselves. We are not like unified enough to become one against the bourgeoisie. But those bourgeoisie, like the most advantage of them is they're rich.
Okay.
But remember, all their money, all their treasure is based on American dollar. If American dollar is gone, everything of them are gone.
Okay.
It's like the base. It's like they're like a building their building on the sand. When the sand is gone, bye bye.
Okay.
So
Although our efforts in persevering in the war of resistance in the United Front have somewhat changed the enemy's strength and superiority against our weakness and inferiority, there has as yet been no basic change. Hence, during a certain stage of war, to a certain degree, the enemy will be victorious and we shall suffer defeat. But why is it that in this stage the enemy's victories and our defeats are definitely restricted in degree and cannot be transcended by complete victory or complete defeat? The reason is that first, from the very beginning, the enemy's strength and our weaknesses have been relative and not absolute, and that and second, our efforts in persevering in the war of resistance and in the United Front have further accentuated this relativeness. In comparison with the original situation, the enemy is still strong, but unfavorable factors have reduced his strength, although not to a degree sufficient to destroy his superiority, and similarly, we are still weak, but favorable factors have compensated for our weaknesses, although not yet to a degree sufficient to transform our inferiority. Thus, it turns out that the enemy is relatively strong and we are relatively weak, and that the enemy is in a relatively superior position, and both sides have strengths and weaknesses, and superiority and inferiority have never been
absolute.
have never been absolute, and besides, our efforts in persevering in the resistance to Japan and in the United Front during the war have brought about further changes in the original balance of forces between us and the enemy. Therefore, in this stage, the enemy's victory and our defeat are definitely restricted in degree, hence the war becomes protracted.
Okay, talking about this, I want to. This is quite similar to our situation as well. Like, yes, the bourgeoisie has their advantage. We will suffer from the defeat at this moment, in this period, at this stage. It's no question. It doesn't want to happen. But I want to point out several things. A, just like what Mao said in this article, our defeat is not absolute, and their victory is not absolute as well. Because think about it, if no one works for them, they die.
Yep.
So as long as we insist, as long as we persist, we will win in the end. Because they're out of number. And with the time passing, their power will become weaker and weaker. And and also there's something I want to point out as well. If we don't fight, this will never happen. Because
Exactly.
after all, we are the people. If we don't fight for us, no one will fight for us.
Exactly. But circumstances are continually changing, and in the course of the war, provided we employ correct military and political tactics, make no mistakes of the principles of principle, and exert our best efforts, the enemy's disadvantages and China's advantages will both grow as the war is drawn out, with inevitable result that there will be a continual change in the difference in the comparative strength and hence the relative two sides. When a new stage is reached, a great change will take place in the balance of forces, resulting in the enemy's defeat and our victory.
Yeah. It's also same. Yeah, even we believe every day we will win. We will get the victory in the end. But to make to for us to get that place, we have to make sure no military mistake and political mistake should be made.
What is the topic you're asking me for a recommendation again? Sorry. Okay. At present, the enemy can still manage to exploit his strength, and our war of resistance has not yet fundamentally weakened him. The insufficiency in his manpower and material resources is not yet such as to prevent his offensive. On the contrary, they can still sustain his offensive to a certain extent. The reactionary and barbarous nature of his war, and a factor which uh, the Naxalites. There's I'll
Intensify,
tweet. I will tweet it out. Good book. Okay. I forgot where I was.
intensify, intensify
Intensified. Um, in
both
intensified.
affect what intensifies both class effect.
Okay. Both class antagonisms within Japan and the resistance of the Chinese nation has not yet brought about a situation which radically impedes his advance. The enemy's international isolation is increasing, but it is not yet complete. In many countries which have indicated that they will help us, the capitalist dealings with munitions and war materials bent solely on the profit are still furnishing Japan with large quantities of supplies, and their government are still reluctant to join the Soviet Union in practical resistance in practical sanctions against Japan. From all this, it follows that our war of resistance cannot be won quickly and can only be a protracted war. As for China, although there has been some improvements with regard to her weakness in the military, political, and economic and cultural spheres, in the 10 months of resistance, it is still a long way from what is required to prevent the enemy's offensive and prepare our counteroffensive. Moreover, quantitatively speaking, we have had to sustain certain losses. Although all the factors favorable to us are having a positive effect, it will not be sufficient to halt the enemy's offensive and to prepare our counteroffensive unless we make an immense effort. Neither the abolition of corruption and the acceleration of progress at home, nor the curbing of pro-Japanese forces and the expansion of anti-Japanese forces abroad are yet accomplished facts. From this, it follows that our war cannot be won quickly, but can only be a protracted war.
Yes, think about it. Even in the current situation, America still has its friend, like those NATO countries. But I made a prediction today. Because as we all know, like those NATO countries are mostly European countries,
Yeah.
which is a member of EU. What if I told you someday America will destroy EU?
Oh, it has to, because the euro is the biggest competitor to the
Dollar.
yeah, and that's why they're like doing some crap, like all the tickling the dragon in Ukraine.
No, that's why after they do this, they would lose all their allies. They
Yeah.
will lose all their friends. Because America will use their action to tell everyone they are not trustworthy. Who would want to be a friend of a backstabber?
I mean,
I would
yeah,
not. I would not. How about you guys? I'm not interested in being stabbed in my back. Okay.
exactly. It's like the America's always like that scorpion in the tail of the scorpion and the frog. Okay.
Being stabbed in my back. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Okay. So 3 stages of protracted war. Since the Sino-Japanese War is protracted and a protracted one, and a final victory will belong to China, it can be reasonably assumed that this protracted war will pass through 3 stages. The first stage covers the period of the enemy's strategic offensive and our strategic defense. The second stage will be a period of the enemy's strategic consolidation and our preparation for the counteroffensive. The third stage will be the period of our strategic counteroffensive and the enemy's strategic retreat. It is impossible to predict the concrete situation in the 3 stages, but certain main trends in the war may be pointed out in light of present conditions. The objective course of events will be exceedingly rich and varied, with so many twists and turns, and nobody can cast a horoscope for the Sino-Japanese War. Nevertheless, it is necessary for the strategic direction of the war to make a rough sketch of its trends. Although our sketch may not be in full and in accordance with subsequent facts, will be amended by them, it is necessary to make it in order to give firm and purposeful strategic direction to the protracted war.
Yeah, this is similar to
Okay,
our.
I need to just take a 1-minute break. Please continue talking.
Okay, this is similar to our situation as well. Like in this period, no, we haven't reached that period. I mean, at the first period after the revolution, I mean, the bourgeoisie they will attack us, and we will suffer from defeat. But as long as we continue, it will be like the first stage. It will be their strategic offensive, and our strategy of defensive. Okay, and at the second stage, in Chinese we call it strategic hold on or something like that. Basically, they cannot end us. We will have our own base. Have our own territory. They cannot defeat us absolutely. We will have our military where we will build our regime in this kind of situation, and we will prepare to finish them. And at the last stage, we will finish them once for all. But it takes time. We haven't gathered the first stage because the first should the first stage means something called uprising already happened. That's the first stage. Now we haven't get that phase. Not yet. But I believe we will get that phase very soon. Because given the hyperinflation in the West, if you guys know what I'm talking about, and I see more and more people are starving. When that happens, social unrest.
Sorry,
and people
I
are
just
not
hadn't
satisfied
taken
with
my ADHD medicine and it was getting hard to focus. It'll kind of not be working until for a little while, but at least I will be able to, it'll kick in sometime so I can at least read better.
Okay.
So we're in section 36. The first stage has not yet ended. Oh, I can feel like nice and, I should like totally roll back like on a grandpa reading. Okay. The first stage has not yet ended, and the enemy's decision to occupy Canton, Wuhan, and the La Chao will be
Lanzhou.
Lanzhou?
Lanzhou.
Lanzhou?
Lanzhou. It's a city in the west north.
We'll link up to these 3 points. The enemy's design, to accomplish this aim, the enemy will have to use at least 50 divisions of more than 1.5 million men, and more than 1.5 million men, and spend from 1 to 1.5 to 2 years and expend more and expend more than 10,000 million yen. Penetrating so deeply, he will encounter immense difficulties, with consequences so disastrous beyond imagination. As for attempting to occupy the entire length of the Canton-Hankow Railway and the Xi'an-Lanzhou Highway, he will have to fight perilous battles, and even so may not fully accomplish his design. But in drawing up our operational plan, we should base ourselves on the assumptions that the enemy may occupy the 3 points and even certain additional areas, as well as link them up. We should make dispositions for a protracted war so that even if he does so, we shall be able to cope with him. In this stage, the form of fighting we should adopt primarily is mobile warfare, supplemented by guerrilla and positional warfare. Through the subjective errors of the Kuomintang military authorities, KMT, positional warfare was assigned the primary role in the first phase of this stage. But it is nevertheless supplementary from the point of view of the stage as a whole. In this stage, China has already built up a broad united front and achieved unprecedented unity. Although the enemy has used and will continue to use base and shameless means to induce China to capitulate in the attempt to realize his plan for a quick decision and to conquer the whole country without much effort, he has failed so far, nor is he likely to succeed in the future. In this stage of considerable losses, China will make considerable progress. which will become the main basis for her continued resistance in the second stage. In the present stage, the Soviet Union has already given substantial aid to China. And on the enemy side, there are already signs of flagging morale, and his army's momentum of attack is less in the middle phase of this stage than it was in the initial phase. It will diminish further in concluding phase. Signs of exhaustion are beginning to appear in his finances and the economy. War weariness is beginning to set in among his people and troops, and within the clique at the helm of the war frustrations are beginning to manifest themselves, and pessimism about the prospects of the war is growing.
Yeah, just like I'm thinking, just look at this. Like we haven't reached the first stage of our patriotism. Okay? I have to give you guys this. The first stage is something after the uprising. We're like before that. But as I said, we will reach that part. We will reach that point someday, but not now. Then we will wait and see. You live in America.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the inflation. If you know what I'm talking about. With this kind of inflation rate, I mean, people will starve.
Oh, it'll get worse than. I don't know how to explain what is impending to people because they don't have any clue. It's more than the inflation is secondary. What will happen is the supply chain is getting cut off, and you're not gonna get things like the grocery stores are gonna be empty, and then the rich are gonna just try to buy everything, and I can't even begin to explain to people what to expect. And if I do, they won't believe me. So, what am I?
The thing about it, when the mass majority of people are starving, what will happen? The class consciousness will be awakened. People will just realize they are the 99%. They
Well,
are the people to rub it off.
the problem.
They will want by the bourgeoisie.
Almost. The problem is, have you seen? I will read my article on Katrina, and you'll see that there is a bigger problem when this happens. Hold on. At the second, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's not like I want this to happen. But this will happen because of the real situation. It has nothing to do with like a.
I know. I'm not saying that you want this to happen. I'm just saying that don't be optimistic about it because what's going to happen is that it's going to be a lot like Katrina, where all these like white nationalist people like had all these guns and they just had a free hunting season where they killed like lots of like I wrote an article about it on historically.substack.com. Check it out. So yeah, unless there is like a large ideological preparation of the masses that like makes them Marxist Leninist, the first stage of collapse will be something like a Mad Max or Katrina, basically.
Actually, that's why I want to teach model sort of with you. Okay, think about it. What model said? The power of the front gun.
Mm-hmm.
He emphasized the importance of the military power of a revolutionary, like you can call it a regime or whatever, or revolutionary unit. You must have your own military power.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so that when those things happen, when those like white supremacists, when they want to kill you guys, it's not a hunting field for them. They will just hit themselves with the iron wall and bleeding their own head.
And yeah, but right now, like I said, America is so backwards in ideological preparation. We're not even at having any leftist organized militia forces because it's very fractured. It's a very, very ideologically backwards place.
I know.
It's like Nazi. I'm not gonna. It's like Nazi Germany, but worse.
Yes, I know that's why we have to wait and see.
There's a lot of
when majority are weak, it takes time for them to realize this.
Yes.
And I don't remember what happened in China. Like when KMT just betrayed the CCPC, there's like we call it 412, like basically the April 12th. At that day,
Hmm.
Chiang Kai-shek just betrayed the CPC and killed like millions of CPC members.
Yeah.
They didn't fight back in the first place, so they got slaughtered.
Yep.
And
No,
and,
no.
and after that, they are weakened. Then after
I
that, there's something called the Wuchang Uprising happened.
no. I agree with you on all this. It's just that I'm saying that this is a long journey, so we can't really take the. We have to know what the road is ahead. So you're talking about stage, like after walking a 5. I'm just saying that before we even get to the stage that you're talking about, we have to walk another 500 miles.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said that we are like we are like the stage before the first stage of the
Exactly.
CPC.
So we just have to walk 500 miles before we even reach this. Like right now, the main task is ideological preparation not to kill brown people. I don't know.
No, brown people, black people, not to kill working class.
Well,
Like make it
well, well
local.
I know I know. I'm just saying that not to kill people in other countries. Just don't. Even if they're not working class, like if it's a bourgeoisie Iraqi, don't kill him. Like that's what I meant.
I'd rather just go to like the awakening of the American working class, make them realize who they are, which class they belong to let them
Yeah,
know.
awakening of the American working class is very important. So, but our standards are low right now. Like, I'd be happy with members of the American working class not killing people abroad.
Yeah. The
That's
thing
all.
is, the thing is, when American dollar collapse, I don't think they will still have the money to buy those ammo to kill others. Because think about it, who can they, where can they attack? China,
Mm-mm,
Russia.
mm-mm,
What can they get from those? Europe? I mean, come on.
mm-mm.
You
They
take
can't even attack
oh,
Iran. If you noticed, about a year ago, they're really like the Iran like was so precise with their missiles that it just like hit just the exact weapons target. It didn't kill anyone, and American like alleged Iron Dome didn't work. So they can't even attack Iran. But whatever.
they cannot even attack Iran. Then what's left is Africa. Okay, no way. There's nothing for them to attack. They
I
are
know, but
already.
like I said, Iran even they can't do it because I remember last year Iran took out there was this weapons hangar depository, and Iran just did such a precision strike. They just went in, hit just that, killed 0 people. Just the weapons were all just went up in flames. Uh,
No, it's like after the assassination of Mussolini, or
y-
that's the general of Iran.
Soleimani.
Soleimani, yes. After the assassination of Soleimani,
Yeah, but it was so accurate. I was like, wow, they had a military. They didn't do it out of like wanton revenge. They planned ahead. They had a plan, and their plan was to take out the weapons hangars, and they took it out. They didn't kill anyone. They left. And the funny thing is that the U.S. And the U.S. Iron it was like advertising this like stupid like Iron Dome like missile defense system, and it didn't work at all. And that's when Turkey switched.
yeah. But yeah, I'm not optimistic. Okay, I'm very realistic. I understand what stage we are in, but the thing is that what I'm saying is the uprising will happen.
Of course, his
It will happen.
optimism is be inspired by his optimism. Ignore my pessimism.
It's like if that thing doesn't happen, oh come on, then you guys will be even worse, yeah, worse situation, way worse situation. It will
Yeah,
be something called a war zone, if you know what I'm talking about.
it will be like
Inside
the heart of darkness. I don't know.
they like those like the warlord will just
Yeah. It will be like Warlord Central.
it will become that kind of place. Everyone live in that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that as well. After
Okay.
all, I live in China, okay.
At first,
Okay, that's the second stage. Let's continue.
The second stage may be termed one of strategic stalemate. At the tail end of the first stage, the enemy will be forced to fix certain terminal points in his strategic offensive, owing to his shortage of troops and our firm resistance upon reaching them. He will stop his strategic offensive and enter the stage of safeguarding his occupied areas. This sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Um, uh, in the second stage, the enemy will attempt to safeguard the occupied areas and to make them his own by fraudulent method of setting up puppet governments. Sounds familiar.
Sounds
While
familiar.
plundering China's people to the limit. And now, if you just change China to Iraq, Afghanistan, whatever you want.
Yeah, and maybe in the future it could be like some
Yeah,
war in America.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can see that to happen.
Okay, but again, he will be confronted with stubborn guerrilla warfare. Taking advantage of the fact that the enemy's rear is unguarded, our guerrilla warfare will develop extensively in the first stage, and many base areas will be established, seriously threatening the enemy's consolidation of the occupied areas. And so, in the second stage, there will still be widespread fighting. In this stage, our form of fighting will be primarily guerrilla warfare, supplemented by mobile warfare. The enemy will still retain a large regular army, but she will find it difficult to launch the strategic counteroffensive immediately because, on the one hand, the enemy will adopt a strategically defensive position in the big cities and along the main lines of communications under his occupation. And on the other hand, China will not yet be adequately equipped technically, except for the troops engaged in frontal defense against the enemy. Our forces will be switched in large numbers to the enemy's rear in comparatively dispersed disposition, and basing themselves on all areas not actually occupied the enemy and coordinating with the people's armed forces. They will launch extensive, fierce guerrilla warfare against the enemy occupied areas, keeping the enemy on the move as far as possible in order to destroy him in mobile warfare, as is now being done in the Shanxi province. The fighting in the second stage will be ruthless. The country will suffer serious devastation, but the guerrilla warfare will be successful. If it is well conducted, the enemy may be able to retain only 1/3 of his occupied territory, while the remaining 2/3 in our hands, and this will constitute a great defeat for the enemy and a great victory for China. Okay, let me continue. By then, the enemy occupied territory as a whole will fall into 3 categories. The first, enemy base areas. Second, our base areas for guerrilla warfare. And third, guerrilla areas contested by both sides. The duration of this stage will depend on the degree of change in the balance of force between us and the enemy and on the changes in the international situation. Generally speaking, we should be prepared in this stage last comparatively long time to weather big hardships. It will be very painful. It will be a very painful period for China. The 2 big problems will be economic difficulties and the disruptive activities of the traders. The enemy will go all out to wreck China's united front and the trader organizations in all occupied areas will merge into a so-called unified government. Owing to the losses of big cities and hardships for war, vacillating elements within our rank will clamor for compromise, and pessimism will grow to a serious extent. Our task will be then to be mobilize the whole people to unite as one man and carry the war with unflinching perseverance. To broaden and consolidate the united front, sweep away all pessimism and ideas of compromise, promote the will to hard struggle, and apply new wartime policies so to weather hardships. In the second stage, we will have to call upon the whole country resolutely to maintain a united government. We will have to oppose splits and systematically improve fighting techniques, reform the armed forces, mobilize the entire population for the counteroffensive. The international situation will become more unfavorable to Japan, and the main international forces will incline towards giving more help to China, even though there may be talk of realism of the Chamberlain type, which accommodates itself to the fait accompli. Japan's threat to Southeast Asia and Siberia will become greater, and there may be even another war as regards Japan's corps. Her divisions will be inextricably bogged down in China. Widespread guerrilla warfare and the people's anti-Japanese movement will wear down this big Japanese force, greatly reducing it and also disintegrating its morale by stimulating the growth of homesickness, war weariness, and even anti-war sentiments. Though it would be wrong to say that Japan will achieve no results in her plunder of China, yet being short of capital and being harassed by guerrilla warfare, she cannot possibly achieve rapid or substantial results. This second stage will be transitional stage of the entire war. It will be the most trying period, but also the pivotal one. Whether China becomes an independent country or is reduced to a colony will be determined not by the retention or the loss of the big cities in the first stage, but by the extent to which the whole nation exerts itself in the second. If we can persevere in the war of resistance, in the united front, and in the protracted war, China will be in that stage to gain power, to change from weakness to strength. It will be the second act in a three-act drama of China's war of resistance. Though the efforts of the entire cast, it will become possible to perform a most brilliant last act.
Yes, this part I want to say something. Okay, Isha, remember when I go to your show for the first time, you asked me like what you guys should do
Mm-hmm.
in this period. I said that you go to the mass, you go to the routine belt, you go to the Bible belt. Remember? Cause think about where you guys grow the food, where the farmer,
Yep.
and it's in the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we can occupy the middle, and the gorilla can just attack those or harass those bourgeoisie force at the second period or the first period, that will heavily weaken American imprisonment.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this stage, the USD will be already collapsed. No one wants those anymore. And if they cannot get enough food from those big farms, they can only buy from outside. So who would offer them this? No one. China would not. Russia would not. Europe is already.
Europe doesn't have food for its own people. It barely grows enough for its own people.
Last time I checked, like France is the only European country
That
which
can
food
feed
is
itself.
self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Other countries, no enough of them.
No one else.
Yeah, so west they can go get. So the South America or the Africa, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Some people cannot even feed themselves. And by the way, how can you get food this right now? You send your troops to rob them. Remember, no one would want to fight for you. Like no, you would have. Some people will not have enough power to
Yeah,
send the army to rob from them. There's no way.
yeah,
So as long as we can cut them off, cut them into pieces, and harass them by those places, we will have a future.
of course. Um, let's see. The third stage will be the stage of the counter offensive to recover our lost territories. Their recovery will depend mainly upon the strength which China has built up in the preceding stage and which will continue to grow in the third stage. But China's strength alone will not be sufficient. We will also have to rely in support of international forces on the changes that will take place inside Japan, or otherwise we shall not be able to win. This adds to China's tasks in international propaganda. In the third stage, our war will no longer be one of strategic defensive, but will turn into a strategic counteroffensive, manifesting itself in strategic offensiveness, and it will no longer be fought on strategically interior lines, but will shift gradually to strategically exterior lines. Not until we fight our way to the Yalu River can this war be considered over. The third stage will be in the last protracted war. And when
Okay,
we talk
wait. I want to just make some tell something, just in case you guys don't know. The Yellow River is the highest born. If you across the Yellow River, you will go to the North Korea.
ah,
That's what it means. Okay, if you we just like the Yellow River means we unless we drive all our enemies out of China, otherwise it will not be ended. There will be no compromise.
mhm.
Okay, now continue.
The okay, our primary form of fighting, which will be mobile warfare and positional warfare, will rise to importance. While positional warfare cannot be regarded as important in the first stage because of the prevailing circumstances, positional attack will be quite important in the second stage because of changed conditions and the requirements of the task. In the third stage, guerrilla warfare will again provide strategic support by supplementing mobile and positional warfare, but it will not be the primary form as in the second stage. Thus, it is obvious that the war is protracted and consequently ruthless in nature. The enemy will not be able to gobble up the whole of China, but will be able to occupy many places for a considerable time. China will not be able to oust the Japanese quickly, but the greater part of her territory will remain in her hands. Ultimately, the enemy will lose, we will win. We shall have a hard stretch of road to travel. This actually sounds like we're at section 40. So this actually sounds like a good section 39 to stop, because I'm also feeling a little tired too because of all this thing. So next week, are you ready for the same time?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, any questions, comments, any super chats? We will stay to answer super chats, questions, comments. If not, we will have to say Slobodu narodu smrti fash. Okay, with that, we will have our historically episode coming out soon, and we'll be here with late nights with Lennon, and stay tuned for whatever we will plan for Thanksgiving, because I know most of you are probably going to be bored. With that, I'll say Slobodu narodu smrti fascismu.